Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, you're welcome, and if you're already a part of the family, welcome back. On the previous episode of Chatter and Chops, we had discussed the important conversations you need to have before walking down the aisle or before saying I do. I thrown out there a few of the conversations that I felt were important, from financial conversation to fertility issues to among others basically. And today we'll be zooming into one of those conversations. So grab your seats, get a bottle of drink, a glass of wine or something. I have my water today, and let's dive in. So I feel a lot of people don't think about adoption or surrogacy until they're faced with fertility issues. But these conversations are conversations I believe should be had early on in a relationship. Imagine dating someone for years, getting married, and then realizing you have a completely different view on having kids. That's a problem, you think? So some people assume, and another thing is some people just assume that they will automatically have biological kids, no question asked. And honestly, I pray that for every one of us. However, there are things that may come up that might result to not having being able to have biological kids, either from the male or the female. Anything could happen. Yeah, anything can come up, and these conversations need to happen. Like, oh, what do you think about adoption? Are you for adoption? Would surrogacy be an option for us? These are things I feel like couples need to talk about before the situation becomes urgent, before they actually have now forced. You're not getting to the point where you're actually forced to make one decision. So because you're desperate now, you're making a decision that you might not necessarily be happy with. However, imagine you've had this conversation at the beginning of your relationship or during your relationship, and you guys already have like, you kind of know what you want to do. Maybe you've not made a certain decision. However, both of you know that, okay, we're open to this, or we're not open to that, we're open to this. I can compromise here, I can't compromise it. But both of you know where you are at, mind wise, like you're in the same headspace regarding to this. And so let's dive into adoption. So let's talk about adoption. A lot of people think adoption is only for couples that having issues with having kids. But the truth is some people adopt because they want to give a child or home, not because they have to, not because they are forced to, not because they have fertility issue, nothing. However, in our society, adoption still comes with a lot of stigma, something I really do not understand. Some people view it as an adopted child is less than your biological child, which is honestly very ridiculous to me. If like it's not something everyone want to hear. A child is a child, whether you share a DNA with a child or not. Bear in mind, adoption is not for everybody. So if you're the kind of person that say, "Oh, I don't believe in adoption. I don't think I'm able to like fully love a child, but it's not biologically mine," does not make you a bad person. You are not a bad person for having that feeling. But the fact that you have that feeling and you recognize that feeling is actually a very good thing. Because we've seen times where people just adopt because that's like the last option they have, and then they end up maltreating those children because honestly they really are not open to adoption. So I don't think I personally, I've always said it to a lot of people, I don't think adoption is for everybody. And you're not a bad person if you don't want to adopt. If you don't believe in adoption, you're not a bad person. What makes you a bad person is when you knowingly know that you can't love a child that isn't biologically yours, and then you go and adopt the child and start maltreating the child. That's what makes you a bad person. Okay, so I know that I might be seeming a bit harsh with this conversation, but this topic is really close to my heart. I've got about three of my friends that are actually battling the fertility issue right now, and I had this conversation with two of them. One is very open to adoption, but our partner, unfortunately, they didn't have this conversation at the early stage of their marriage because, as believers, as Africans, we just assume that "Ah, anytime my husband's house, I'll give birth immediately," and our husband is not open to adoption, and this is causing a lot of conflicts in their marriage. And the other one is she doesn't even believe in surrogacy or IVF. So there are a lot of factors that just really, I don't know, that makes this topic really close to my heart. But let's be real, we're saying adoption, 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 and I'm saying it like it's one easy thing. Honestly, adoption is not easy. It's not an easy process. There's a lot of paperwork to be done. There's a lot of legal hurdles to face, like there are a lot of legal things you need to face in terms of adoption. You need the emotional readiness and even financial commitment because you're committing to a child with everything that you are, with everything that you own. And it's something you need to be fully prepared for. You cannot just wake up one morning and say, oh, let's just adopt Jare. You need to be in the right emotional space to adopt a child, you need to be in the right mental space to adopt a child, the right financial space to adopt a child. It's basically like you even try to conceive. Before you can think of having a baby, you know that you need to be emotionally ready to have that baby. You need to be mentally prepared. You need to be psychologically prepared and financially prepared. So it's the same thing for adoption. So I'm not saying adoption is an easy way thing. It's not, honestly. So let me share. You know what? I think I've been talking too much. Let me share a story with you guys. So I've had this conversation about adoption and surrogacy with a few people over the years, and there's nothing I've not heard. So I was talking to someone one time, and I don't even know how the conversation led to me saying that, oh, I think I'm a very huge fan of adoption. That I'm hoping that one day I'll be able to give a child a happy home. And the person looks at me dead in the eye and says, "What happened to your womb?" I don't understand. I was shocked. I was like, what happened to my womb as in how? And he goes further to say, are you not fertile? Why are you looking at adoption? Can't you have children? What do you do with your womb? And I'm like, how does me having a womb stop me from adopting? How does my I don't understand it. What does one have to do with the other? Bear in mind, it's not like I ever told this person that I didn't want to have biological kids, honestly. But at the end of the day, even if I said that, what does me having a womb or being fertile have to do with wanting to adopt a child, wanting to give the child a loving, caring home? And then person goes further to say, or I don't know if it was someone else that said this, saying that it's people like you that encourages unwanted pregnancies. You're the one that encourages prostitutes and smokers or drug addicts to just go and have kids and abandon them because you know people like you always come and take the children. Like people, what exactly is wrong with us as a people? Obviously, and it's the fact that you expect this from people that are not educated, but then I'm realizing very fast that we have a lot of educated illiterates in our society. You're so ignorant about something, and then even when people want to educate you, you don't want to learn. But then you see the person saying all of these things to me, you think that me, I will just walk away from the conversation. But no, Jade decided this can be a teachable moment. Let's educate this man. So I go further to say that first of all, that's not the leading cause of unwanted pregnancies or children being abandoned. And so let's start with you as a parent. Have you had that conversation about the birds and the bees with your child? Have you started having those conversations with your teenagers? But because I noticed that in Africa, the word sex is seen as taboo. We want to pretend that sex doesn't exist. So we refuse to have these conversations with our kids. We refuse to educate them about sexual education. We refuse to give them safe sex education. And then we are wondering why there are unwanted pregnancies in our society. I don't get it. And then you want to blame me because I said I want to adopt. Why don't you sit down and look yourself in the mirror and see that you're the cause of the problem? You refuse to educate your children. You've left your children for society, for TikTok, for Instagram, for Twitter to educate them. And then you want to blame me. At this point, I was still upset. I was already getting upset, honestly. But I was like, let's go on teaching this person. Then I go further because I'm like, let's be demure, let's be classy about it, let's be mindful. So I got ahead and say, do you know that a lot of kids age out of the adoption system? not all kids are able to get adopted, so they age out of this system and are led to fed for themselves afterwards. So I'm not saying kids that come out that age out of the adoption system don't go out and become successful. Some of them do, but some of them don't. And I'm very concerned about the percentage that do not. I'm glad and I'm grateful that I'm from a loving and caring family. And that's one of the things I've always wanted to push to the world. I've always been a nurturer by nature. I've always cared for people. I've always taken care of people around me. And I know for a fact that I can show that love to. I've shown it already times and times again to people that are not biologically related to me. And I know I have a very big heart that wants to love any child. And therefore, adoption is an option for me. And then this person goes spiritual and started rebuking it for me, telling me that I reject it in Jesus' name. You will give birth. Eh? If your husband wants a biological child, what will you say? I'm like, I'm not against having biological children, but one of the important things for me while dating is to have the important conversation with my partner. So my partner knows who I am and I know who he is. And he knows what I want and he knows what I do not want and he knows what I hope for. And we can agree, we can disagree, and we can compromise. At this point, then, someone would think I will learn my lesson, keep quiet, and move on from the conversation. Me? Never. I did not. I went further and further and further into this conversation with this person, and it ended up becoming something big, and I just exed it. And it scares me to know that this is the way a lot of people, not just the male but female as well, that this is the way a lot of people think in our society. Sorry, I've got like a itchy throat, so I have to hydrate a lot. Anyway, let's move to surrogacy. This is even one. This one is even more controversial than adoption for some people. The idea of another woman carrying your child brings up all kinds of debates: ethical, moral, and even financial debates. Some people love the idea of surrogacy, especially if physically they can't carry pregnancy. Other feels like it is unnatural, and that's the part that you know what? This brings me to another story. So a friend of so I was talking to someone else about this, and I was like, "Oh, do you know a friend of mine once said that he's seen the pain that a lot of people go through doing child birth, and he really doesn't want his wife to go through that. That although he wants biological kids, that if he's able to afford it, he would rather they opt for surrogacy. So she also goes through the process of carrying the child for 9 months. And I was telling this person was like, why would you do that? That it is so wrong. It is so he used the same exact word. It's very unethical. That so his wife will not see a child coming out of her. She will not feel the joy of motherhood. Even she will not feel the joy of motherhood. Eh? She- I feel like some people just talk. People just want to talk for the sake of talking. I feel if you don't have an opinion about a certain topic, you keep quiet and listen while other people are having those conversations so you can learn and then go home and do your own research as opposed to uttering nonsense from your mouth. See, the truth is that people don't know is that surrogacy has helped a lot of families. There are a lot of people that have been called barren. There are a lot of people that have been seen as they will never have kids. But surrogacy, thank God for science, has helped a lot of women show that I would have my own child. That will be biologically mine. I saved a lot of marriages. And to have someone say it's unethical, it's just is a lot for me. The truth is, surrogacy has helped a lot of family couples struggling with infertility, and even like I don't even know, even single parents. Again, remember, not everyone wants to get married, and even single parents that want to have their own kids, maybe due to art or whatever, or just want to be single. Because not be everybody go marry. That again, I'm sure someone else to say I'm a terrible person for considering that. With that being said, surrogacy comes with its own challenges. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the pros of everything and not mention the cons. Surrogacy comes with its own challenges. The legal process, the emotional connection between the surrogate and the baby, the financial cost, the emotional connection between the baby and the biological mom. It's not a simple decision. I think that's what people don't understand, that people that end up taking these steps, adoption, surrogacy, IVF, people don't realize that it's not an easy decision for them. It's not it's not an easy step. So part of the cons of surrogacy is a lot. See, surrogacy has a lot. Financial, the financial aspect is if you're not rich, surrogacy is very hard. Like you're looking at in the millions. So if you don't get that small, surrogacy might not be an option for you. But surrogacy, a lot of things happens with surrogacy because we've seen times where the surrogate mom, because usually surrogate moms advised after the insemination not to have sex for a while till she's pregnant, and even after she's pregnant, just for in case anything happens. Because imagine if they inseminate you and then you don't have sex with your partner, and then instead of you being pregnant for people that you're pregnant, you're meant to get pregnant for, you end up being pregnant for your partner, and then the child comes and by DNA they find out that the child is not the parent but rather the surrogate. There are also situations where a surrogate gets inseminated, gets pregnant, and then sleeps with her partner and then gets pregnant also. Yes, you can get pregnant while you're already pregnant if you did not know that one. Sometimes it leads to fraternal twins. Not saying fraternal twins cannot be had by the same parent or where the twins look separately, but this one fraternal twins, the child can become be for one parent and child be for that parent. It happens. Research has shown it happens in our society. You can go and read more on it. So there's as much as there are a lot of pros to these things, there are a lot of cons as well. Also, one thing I wanted to mention about adoption, because I had this conversation and someone asked me and said, if you do adopt, would you let your adopted child know that they're adopted? And my answer is yes. Not because I want to say you're different, no, but because I want you to know the truth about you. And now society sometimes you not tell your child outside, I go tell your child. But I want the child to know and hear it from me, number one, and then know that they have the option, they can go out when they're older to actually find out where they are from, to know their origin, to know their stories, to find out where they are from. So I'm very open to that. I know some people do close adoption where sometimes they don't even tell the child that they're adopted. To each his own. Again, my belief system. I would like my adopted child to know that yes, you're adopted. Well, I'm still your mama because I want you. Because at the end of the day, I don't know, sometimes you might feel empty and want to really find out where you are from, want to know, oh, why did my parents abandon me? All of these things. This is basically knowing more about yourself. Because even me, that I'm from a two-parent household, there's some histories I want to know. I want to know about my grandparents, my great grandparents, where are they from, where did they come from, all of this is how did we get our surname? Because I've got an English surname, by the way. Where did they come from? How did we get this? I want to know my history. So obviously, I would want my adopted child, my child, to know their history as well. And obviously, I'm not going to be going out and say, "Oh, my child is adopted. That's my adopted child." No, that's my child. That's my daughter. That's my son. So yeah, I know this conversation has been a bit heavy, but I feel like I said, these are conversations I've always said we need to have. So at the end of the day, there is no one size fits all answers when it comes to having children, whether it's adoption, surrogacy, or even deciding not to have kids at all. Yes, there's some people that don't want to have children. It's all about making the right choices for you. If you're in a relationship, having this conversation early is important. Don't wait until life forces you to make a rush decision. And if you're considering either adoption or surrogacy, do your research. Talk to people who have gone through the same thing. And most importantly, make sure you're emotionally and financially ready. So that was a lot to unpack. But before we go, let's recap on a few things I've said. Adoption is not for everyone. If you choose to adopt, do your research. Surrogacy is not for everyone. If you do want to do surrogacy, read on it, do your research, ask questions. Now, I want to hear from you all. Would you ever consider adoption or surrogacy, or do you know someone who has? Let's keep the conversation going in the comment section, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn up the post notification button to know when I post new videos.